Girls of Reddit, what's the hardest part of being a girl? Time of the month. But the thing is, if we don't get one, then we would probably think, oh crap, am I pregnant? We just can't win. And no, we can't hold it in like urine, it just blobs out. It just blobs out is the most accurate description I've heard about how a period feels. I've heard being a woman makes it more difficult to be a fan of anything considered a man's hobby. Basically, if you're a fan of video games, comics, or cars, then you'll experience a bunch of gatekeeping attitudes from the guys also in those worlds. How much have you experienced that? Having people, especially older men, believe what you say, take you seriously. Perhaps not all girls, but a lot of little and teenage girls don't get taken seriously. Every time we try to express what we're feeling, our interests, opinions, etc., it gets downplayed, brushed aside, or ignored, especially if you're a girly girl. Sometimes you internalize that what you have to say is not important and don't speak up often or over-explain yourself. And sometimes you turn into a really defensive person, and either way you get socially penalized. It takes a lot to unlearn second-guessing everything you think and say. The fact that my sweatshirt cost as much as my male roommates, but is like 4 times thinner, what the f***? Our emotions are regularly used against us in validating our points or say in a matter. They are also heavily judged as well. Our concern in how something affects us is often not a concern. For example, if one didn't mean to offend, I am in the wrong for being offended, or should pay little mind as I'm just being emotional. Cramps, non-existent pockets, more expectations for looks, being thought of as over-dramatic and weak, and my mom complaining because I'm a tomboy, and that I should like things I don't like because all girls like shopping and this type of clothes and that type of shoes and makeup. I'm not trying to be quirky and not like other girls or anything. It's just not my thing, and I don't bash on or not understand anyone who does like those things. I just hate having it all attempted to be forced on me just because I'm female. If you're a woman who doesn't want kids, you just haven't realized your biological clock is ticking. You'll change your mind, and my favorite, you're incredibly selfish. You're obligated to have them because your parents raised you. There's also the fact it's almost impossible for us to get a tubal ligation unless we've already had 2 or more kids. Because you'll change your mind, or we can't do this without your boyfriend's, husband's consent. Basically anything that involves taking control of our own bodies because of some societal BS. Weight fluctuation. The frustration of balancing being assertive with not being that bitch in the workplace. I want my ideas heard, I want to be respected, I want to be considered fairly for promotions and leadership positions. But if I do twice as much work as my male coworkers, I get half the credit, and if I point out my accomplishments, I have to soften them, or else I'm being a bragging bitch while my male coworkers can take unabashed credit for their accomplishments all day. The fact is that men can take up space and own their confidence and accomplishments in a way that women will be punished for. It's incredibly frustrating to try to succeed professionally when the person in charge of promotions gives me the side eye for talking about this new thing I did, and they just smile and nod when a man does the same thing. I am a computer science major. I build PCs, program, do game dev, all kinds of stuff. I also used to be on a FIRST robotics team. Basically, I know my way around tech. Every single time I go into a Fry's or Micro Center with any male person, even if they do not speak or show any interest in what is going on, employees talk to them. As in, I ask a question, the employee answers to my male friend. So annoying. The Dementors. Being dismissed as emotional or dramatic when you are genuinely going through a hard time or want to speak out about something. You walk into a clothing store and spot a nice jumper. It's woolen, very fluffy, looks comfy. Bam, it's a crop top. Why is everything cropped? Why? Who wears crop tops in winters? If it's not a crop top, then there are usually some stupid, trendy cuts on it. Why does it have no fabric to cover my shoulders but has long frilly sleeves with pearls on it? What kind of goddamn clothing is that? Professionally, being spoken over and it being assumed I'm not the one with the power in the room. The guy sitting next to me is my employee, not the other way around. I am also not the assistant, receptionist, record keeper of my company. I am the big boss lady and I deserve to be treated as such. Personally, finding a great bra that isn't super expensive. Why are women's clothing so tight-fitted and also the non-existent pockets in pants? Literally not being able to have a friend that's a guy without people thinking we're dating. It's even worse because I'm gay and a lot of the time guys will just be like, but you just haven't met the right one. Not being able to walk around alone without fearing for my safety. Oh well, I just had to change careers because all my jobs interviews were pretty shitty all due the area and me being a woman. One time this guy HR just asked me if my favorite hobby was to sew or cooking. Maybe is just my country, but oh god I wish I'd graduated in butt kicking just to have a license to beat the hell out of these guys. Wanting to look masculine, tomboyish, but you can't because you have a big ass. If you're curvy, definitely the hardest part is finding clothes that fit perfectly. Most of them are too big or too small, or they don't fit your thighs but fit your waist, things like that. Generally, not being seen as all the way human. It often gets discussed, the feeling of being dehumanized through objectification and the dangers of creeps. But it hardly ever is discussed the disrespect that men feel like they can allocate to you if they don't find you attractive. I'm talking in work settings, in friend groups. I can't tell you how many times that happened where a guy went out of his way to let me know my appearance wasn't up to his standards in some way when I wasn't even attempting to engage him in any way, let alone flirt. But it's so much more than snide comments. It's being shown that your ideas, your friendship, everything you have to offer is ultimately useless, and that you are not worthy of being seen or heard in any capacity if you don't look right. I've experienced both ends of the spectrum of being conventionally attractive and not so conventionally attractive, and both versions suck. I think the over-sexualizing of my body just as it was developing. I received more comments and was touched and harassed by boys my age who didn't know any better. Like we aren't 7 or 8 anymore, it's not okay to wrestle with me and be aggressive just so you can grab my body parts in an unassuming manner. The straight-up comments about how large my chest was when half the other girls barely had a cups. It was a lot to deal with when for all of my life that was a non-issue. I had to accept these changes, and then others used these changes to either hurt me emotionally or take advantage of me. It made me wear bigger clothes to hide my body, but I was already chunky and my mom seemed to not understand I wasn't going to fit into smaller sizes just because she did. Also, my mom refused to spend the money on proper bras for my sister and I until she was embarrassed by a family member for not taking her chesty daughters to get proper bras. We were wearing sports bras much longer than we should have been for how large our chests were. D+ cups. The guilt and pressure of living in a society that overwhelmingly requires a 2-income household to support a family but places the vast majority of childcare and household demands on the woman's shoulders. And we're taught from a young age to be pretty and polite and don't complain too much, to the extent that we will put ourselves in harm's way despite our better judgment for fear of coming off as impolite. That. Having to justify why we're terrified of walking alone or going for a run by ourselves. I've already read a comment where the woman had to give specific examples of her feeling unsafe and people she knows in unsafe positions. Is it not enough to be sacred that we now have to write an essay for you on why we might feel that way? I'm sick of that homeless guy is harmless because literally everyone is harmless until they're not. So if a girl asks you to walk her to her car because she's scared, don't be a dick and do that small favor so that she can feel safe. If a girl asks you to watch her drink, actually watch it and make sure no one messes with it. Assume that she has good reasons to be scared and don't make her feel bad because of it. I haven't had a kid, but having seen my friends go through pregnancy and childbirth. Yeah, I'm gonna say having a kid. 9 months of carrying a baby around while it leeches off your body and your hormones go crazy. Then, unless you're one of the lucky ones with an easy birth, you go into the hospital and tear yourself apart pushing a baby out to the point you have to wear diaper-sized pads in the weeks following as all the afterbirth finishes clearing itself out of your system. And this is happening while you are caring for your newborn and dealing with things like breastfeeding. Plus you get postpartum hormones while you're surrounded by well-meaning friends and family members that will give you unwanted care tips as well as making you feel like you're not a good mother because you may not have immediately bonded with your kid, etc. Like damn man. And in all these centuries of scientific progress, they have come up with decent ways to make giving birth easier, like epidurals. But the same basic concept of pregnancy and having the baby is the same as it was centuries or even thousands of years ago. Periods. We honestly can't stop blood coming out when it's time for it to happen. It's not like having to hold urine in your body. Having big boobs. Some men and women who are interested in women will stare and compliment how big my boobs are and will try to grab them, and the same thing with asses. I didn't want and still don't want big boobs and a big ass. Partners without vaginas who don't understand that vaginal sex can hurt, especially if you aren't aroused. Being called a girl when you're a 30-year-old grown woman. I get annoyed with the sex part sometimes. I feel like my body is so stupidly complicated at times with what it likes and wants in order to reach orgasm. I wish the vagina was as consistent and simple as dicks. Every man ever just agreed with you 1000%. Having a you on your period be used as reason to dismiss all of my feelings, and generally being talked down to by a lot of guys. People immediately thinking you're stupid. Being friendly to a guy and having it taken as romantic or sexual interest. Periods. Especially if you have really bad cramps. I have endometriosis and it causes horrifyingly painful cramps. I swear some nights I wanted to throw up from how much it was hurting. Being expected to nicely laugh off pervs who won't stop hitting on you. I'm not a buzzkill. Some dude sees me out with the girls, doesn't notice the wedding ring and chats me up. Either work my husband into the conversation, or if he's being more direct, sorry I'm taken, no harm, no foul, but leaning in and telling me about how naughty in bed he thinks I am, all the things he wants to do to me, etc. Then I'm the bad guy for telling him he's disrespectful. As a woman currently studying for a STEM degree, the belittling, patronizing, and mansplaining is super annoying. It's hard to voice my opinions or ideas when they get dismissed. It's even better when one of my male peers says the same thing or phrases it slightly differently and gets commended for it, like, "I just said that." Another super annoying part of it is even when I accomplish something. For instance, I was recently accepted into a difficult-to-get internship program. It's dismissed by my male peers because they just want diversity. One of my best friends worked super hard to get a prestigious internship, and her boyfriend told her must be nice to be handed things because you're a woman. Sure, it wasn't because she's at the top of her class and works insanely hard. It's 'cause she's got 2 X chromosomes. Nice. When you pee and the outer labias get in the way, and you end up having like 3 different streams of piss, and one of them ends up being just the right angle to drip on the outside of the toilet. Never being taken seriously. Not with how I feel, not my pain, none of it. Everything I do there must first be a fight to be taken seriously. People being immediately dismissive of your ability to doing something simply because of your genitals. I once had someone tell me I shouldn't be putting together a desk I purchased. They said I should let my boyfriend do it. Also, the price of feminine hygiene products. Painful boobs. I work very hard and I worry all the time that I'm not taken seriously. Sometimes I try to talk to my boss about ideas and I get joke responses, or he immediately changes the subject to talk about my personal life. It's odd. I worry a lot about walking home alone at night. Cat callers can get seriously. I'm tired of messages from complete strangers. No, not from dating apps. Just men who I've never met appearing in my Instagram and Facebook inboxes. Why on earth would I trust or want that? I'm tired of people assuming I'm single because of some reason other than I want to be. I know this isn't gender exclusive. Periods are painful. Sometimes it's worth it to take a sick day. I'm tired of it being assumed that any bad mood I may have correlates with my period. However, very tired of expressing thoughts or concerns in a rational manner pertaining to relationships, and then being brushed off as needy. clingy or nagging. At the same time, I'm sick of being a source of emotional support for men who do not reciprocate because of this reason. Sick of men appearing surprised when I know things about music, movies, games or politics. I know a lot about them all. Stop being surprised when women are on the same level as you knowledge-wise. On that note, sick of men thinking nerd culture is something they have to vehemently protect. Grow up. Trying to explain about how some parts of our lives are tough because of our gender and then being told, well, what about this tough part about being a male? Having to be overly cautious when walking alone, even when walking in my complex parking lot. Sometimes I wish I could go for a run at night or walk in the city. Lack of upper arm strength. Everyone else already mentioned the obvious period cramps. But I'll add people thinking it's okay to touch you without your permission. And if you state your boundaries and say please don't touch me, people will think you're a bitch. Because women and girls are trained to be nice. And standing up for yourself goes against that.